I'm Carly Dietrich. I joined the Tigger House Foundation in October as a volunteer. Today I'm Tigger House Foundation Addiction Navigator for Team Tigger and the Student Alliance Coordinator. Christian, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, please. First and foremost, congratulations on your new position. I know everyone at Tigger is excited to have you. You've done tremendous work in the community, and we're all excited to have you on board. My name's Christian Peter. I've been a volunteer at Tigger House since the beginning. I had the honor and privilege of sponsoring Tigger for 3 years, and it was probably the best 3 years of my life. He taught me so much about living, sobriety, and we miss him every day. We wish he was here, but if anything good came about it, Tigger over the course of the past 6 years has spread a lot of awareness, saved a ton of lives, and has done tremendous work in the community. And we all work through him.
Yep, absolutely.
And we've got a great team in place, and just trying to spread awareness, send a message that if you're struggling and you want help, there's tools and resources available. Nick has
Absolutely.
done a great job. He's been around since the beginning as well. How's your experience been?
My experience has been, as far as Tigger House and the foundation, it's been wonderful to get the message out there, to help families struggling with addiction. My name's Nick Spinelli. I was one of Tigger's best friends growing up. We struggled with the same disease. We've had amazing times together. We played football together. And then when drug addiction took over, it turned into a different kind of lifestyle. We hurt our families. He lost his battle. And now, my life is dedicated to helping people that struggle with addiction. It has its, pros, and it has its, devastations with families that continue to lose their loved ones. But, we fight day in and day out to try to break that stigma, try to help these, families with tools and things they could do to, support their loved ones and get them through, these times. So.
The beauty of Nick, and what I find so attractive about him, and he's helped me tremendously in my sobriety. I met Nick, I think it was maybe 5 or 6 years ago, at our first event. And I had never met him before, but I had heard stories, and I said, my God, what a piece of work this kid must be. And sure enough, he came to the event, and he pulled me aside and introduced himself to me. And, he told me he was Tigger's best friend, and, that he wanted, to get sober, for Tigger and for himself. And, it's very, very difficult with the disease of addiction to find out who's for real and who's not. And that first time I met him, there was just such a sincerity, a humility, just something that was just so pure and honest about Nick, that I felt that, this kid got it, and he was going to do whatever it took to get sober and stay sober. And I believe at the time he was new in sobriety, maybe only had about 6 months. And to see, what this young man has accomplished in sobriety, as far as, being down and out, being on the bottom, nowhere to go, to where he is now with the people he helps, the service work he does is is amazing to see, and that's the beauty of this program,
Go ahead.
is that you can get your life back, and people should have hope, and they should be encouraged by examples of Nick. And he's not the only one.
Sure.
He's the only one that's closest to me right now, but there's a lot of people out there that have done that. So, the message is, if you're struggling, if you're having a difficult time finding your sobriety, there is hope, and there is a better life ahead of you.
Absolutely. And I think what you mentioned is service. Service plays such an important role in anyone's journey of sobriety. Nick, could you talk a little bit about, how you serve our community, and how you help others recover?
I think service, the biggest part of service for someone in recovery is the fact of showing up and not expecting anything in return. It's as much as you're helping that person, it's helping yourself.
Absolutely.
It's when I came into sobriety, they'd always talk about altruistic and altruism, and I didn't really understand what that means when I first came into sobriety, but that's exactly what it is. It's helping somebody without expecting anything in return, and what comes out of that is nothing short of miracles. So as far as doing things for the community, it could be during COVID, bringing breakfast to the hospitals, or as far as any sort of fellowship, it could be doing the coffee, being the greeter, staying after, picking up sponsees, taking them through step work, all those things are, as much as you're helping that person, you're doing the same for yourself.
Yeah. And I feel that, being a part of Team Tigger, it's created such a sense of family and a sense of community. And, we are all here to serve the community. Whoever reaches out for help, we are here to provide those resources, guide them in the right direction, and will lead them, to some of the tools that they would need if they're struggling with addiction to drugs and alcohol. I think that, what's so important is family. When you're on your journey of recovery, how has that, evolved from being in addiction to now, like you said, being present, showing up, being there? I think that's what's so huge now, being able to be there for anyone, anytime. So if you want to talk a little bit about family and relationships, really.
Yeah, you mentioned family. I got sober because of my family. I didn't want the help. I was having too much fun. But in the end, there was a lot more pain than there was fun. And the reason why I decided to get sober was, my family, my wife, my children. The reason I've decided to stay sober is because of me. But we all go in for different reasons, but I think we end up staying, for ourselves, because we see the difference and the impact we can have, not only on ourselves, but with others. And, the whole thing for me is, I try to keep it very simple, I do what the experts tell me to do. I'm not smart enough to reinvent the wheel, but for somebody who's got 30 years sobriety, 40 years sobriety, 50 years sobriety, obviously they know what they're doing. So for me, it's about just keeping my mouth shut and doing what they tell me to do. I think with, as you develop more sobriety in life, you become more accountable. And with accountability, you earn people's trust. And that's the one thing that I've experienced, is people look at me for help, and they wouldn't come to me for help if they didn't trust me or if they didn't believe in who I am. And I think that's been one of the biggest gifts that I've received, through sobriety is that people see value in us, they trust us, they know we're accountable.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's, like Nick says, it's just showing up a day at a time.
Yep.
There are good days, there's bad days. Now, when we have a bad day, we have the tools and resources to help fix it, to help us prevent us from going out and drinking and drugging.
For me, family has been one of the biggest motivating factors, since I got sober. I come from an Italian family, 3 brothers, very close.
Mm-hmm.
To break it down for you, I started using drugs in high school, 15 years old. I really wasn't the most present. I really, didn't want to do the family gatherings or the holidays. I had resentments, I had anger, due to family drama and situations caused by that. But, so 18 years old, I'm trying to go to community college and I'm using drugs, full-blown drug addict, and I can't do that. So, treatment comes into the picture. So basically from 15 till 25 when I got sober, that's 10 years, I really wasn't present with family. I was in and out of rehabs, long-term rehab, short-term rehabs, detoxes. Now I'm in Florida twice. So now I get sober, I'm 25. I just came back 2 years ago to New Jersey from Florida.
Yeah.
My life has been completely about family. The reason why I came home was because my brother had a baby. I have a niece. I'm her godfather. I show up for her. Anything that my brother needs. My father. We're become very close friends. Me and my mom. Always had that bond, but now we strengthen that. So for me, family's been everything. I don't need too many close friends. Because I have 3 brothers, I could tell them everything,
Yeah.
And they know me like the back of their hand. So.
That's
But isn't
awesome.
it amazing now how your brothers come to you?
Oh yeah.
Whereas you used to be the last person they'd go to.
Yeah.
They used to run from you.
Yeah. And now my brothers now, towards my addiction, it was more like they were embarrassed to have me around their friends. They, didn't really trust my opinions. Now it's like my brothers value my opinions, that they listen. I'm helping the younger one who's younger than me. He's 25. He's trying to start a business. He's valuing things that I'm saying. He's taking my advice, and it's great.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Who would have thought you would have ever turned out, being, an executive, at a major company and stuff like that. And, that's just a tribute to you, wanting to get better and, a day at a time, taking care of yourself, okay, to get better. But, now you're starting to reap the benefits, reap the rewards of, long-term sobriety and, look at your personal life, look at your business life, I always say, with our sobriety, we can have anything we want. Yeah. Without it, we don't have a shot.
And I think it's really cool that, it's like I accepted me for me. All I did was be myself after that. Yeah. I got to where I am today by just showing up, being myself, not worrying about what other people think, But how funny is this? The things that you worried about back in the day that led you to drink and drug, okay, are those qualities now that everybody loves about you. Right.
Right? But because of an insecurity or character defect or whatever you want to call it, okay, back then, you didn't think so.
Yeah.
And you used to try to mask the pain with, the drugs. Yeah. But if we only knew back then what we know now, maybe it could have been different. But, I always say, it's part of the journey.
Of course.
And, that part of your life has helped you to become the man you are today.
And you both talked about the gifts that come with sobriety. And you both truly show just the hope, for families out there who have loved ones that are struggling with addiction to drugs and alcohol. Could you share a little bit of advice that you would give to family members? You can reflect back to how, you acted with your family is different today than it was, in active addiction. If you could just give families a little bit of advice and that light at the end of the tunnel and the hope.
Why don't you go
Yeah,
first?
I mean, my advice would be that there's definitely tons of resources. There's tons of help out there. I would start reaching out as quickly as possible. And, unfortunately, take those suggestions, just like the person struggling has to take suggestions when they get sober. As a family, you have to take suggestions. And sometimes those suggestions aren't going to be easy. And it's going to be, letting go, not enabling, The resources are there, the help's there. Sometimes, you just need to trust the process.
Yeah, it's well said. I think you hit the nail on the head. As far as addiction and families, I'm not a big believer in tough love. An individual is going through the worst time in their life.
Yep.
They've got nowhere to go. And they need all the encouragement and support from the people that they love, and that's their family.
Absolutely.
My family never once turned their back on me. And there were numerous times where they probably should have. And never once. I always had the love and support. And I truly believe, it was that love and support that, enabled me to get sober, and continues and allows me to continue to stay sober.
And what do you share with your children? I know they see you as a role model. You're a mentor. They look up to you. You're an amazing father. I know that they just see that.
Well, maybe you can come over and repeat that to them. Because,
I could do that.
Because they have short-term memory. All right.
So.
No, listen. I just, kids are amazing, and they, they're sponges. They, they remember everything. They don't forget. And we've had conversations, and I'm completely upfront with them. And I just tell them, Daddy's has a problem with alcohol and drugs and is an addict, and there's certain things that I can and can't do, and I just can't drink or take drugs. That's the bottom line. I would say, nobody grows up wanting to be, a junkie, an addict. Who would want that type of life?
Of course.
But don't want to get too deep, but when there's, mental illness and insecurities and character defects, you look to mask that. And with masking it becomes the being dependent on those masking agents.
Right.
And before you know it, okay, a mental issue has now blossomed into an addiction issue, because you need those, you need that alcohol or those drugs in order to function. And, I got to a point where, I couldn't function without it. So I think getting back to the children, just being upfront and honest, and letting them know that, Daddy has a disease, but it's a good disease that there's a cure for. And all Daddy needs to do to stay healthy and live a long life with them, it's just not drink and drug.
Absolutely.
It's that simple.
And I think what you said, being upfront with them and just having the conversations, and with the Student Alliance through the Tigger House Foundation, that's what we're doing. We're spreading awareness. We're, focusing more on other activities that kids can do, whether it be middle school or high school. There's more than just showing them pictures of people who have gone through drug addiction. There's more to that. There's sharing cooking classes with them, just activities, kayaking. We recently went kayaking. It was amazing. That gets them open to talk about things, So it's pretty amazing, some of the work that's being done here through the Student Alliance.
Well, I think, what you guys have done with your leadership within the Student Alliance is amazing. These kids today have so many pressures, whether it's school, whether it's the social media, all these different things that, I didn't have when I was growing up. And not only that, addiction was something that was just swept under the rug. You didn't talk about it. If you had a problem, you just man up, you suck it up, and you quit.
Yeah.
Well, thank God, we've grown from that time.
Absolutely.
And I think, with what you guys are doing as far as having open dialogue and communication with these kids and letting them know it's okay to talk about these things. What you're doing is you're educating, you're spreading awareness, you're building their minds with knowledge and tools and resources. And whether it's maybe one of them who experiences some difficulty later in life, or maybe they have a family member or a friend, what you're now doing is you're equipping them with tools and resources where they have the ability to help others. And I think, my hat's off to both of you guys, because I know how passionate and how hard you've both worked, and to see that alliance grow from one person to, I think, I swear at that polar bear plunge that we took, I could have sworn I saw like 150, 200 kids.
Yeah, that
so
was pretty awesome.
Word spreading, and I think it's amazing what you guys are doing.
Awesome. I did want to touch on treatment. Like the continuum of care. I know so often we hear families say, I just want them home, and they won't follow through. Maybe the next step we might be recommending is that they live in sober living, and their family says, no, I just want them home, and then they go back to their friends and really don't change their ways. Nick, can you share how important that is to maybe,
I think if done correctly, there's a formula that is phase-based, long-term based, that is, the goal is for the person to be independent, fully independent, without the family. And if there's detox needed, it starts there. Detox, 7 to 10 days. Residential, 28 days.
Yeah.
Go into an outpatient program with sober living, partial care, 5 days a week, intensive outpatient. That's 30 days. As you grow and these steps drop, you start working with a case manager, you're looking for a job, you get a job, you're paying towards your rent, you have responsibilities, you're being held accountable. By this time, you're coming up on 4 or 5 months sober. That's a platform, that's a foundation that you've just built. To go home would be starting back at square one. I think that's hard to understand because people's stigma might be on sober living and surrounding yourself with other addicts, but that's where things happen. It's all about the person. It doesn't matter who you're surrounded by. I was surrounded by my family. They're amazing people my whole life. I got high, I sought it out. So if I want it, doesn't matter if I'm around other addicts. I want a life, and if I'm being held accountable, I'm gonna get that life. So
I think you touched on the problem is that you would bring you with you,
right?
And you have to focus on the tools and the resources, which is extremely important.
People, places, things.
And if I don't have the option to go home, and I'm being held accountable.
The one thing, we haven't touched on is, we're just talking about the addict. But the addiction has just as much of an effect on the addict as it does the family. And it's natural that a family wants their son back or their daughter, after a period of time. But like Nick emphasized, and this is what he does best, it's a process and a procedure that must be implemented, and you have to stay within those lines.
Yes.
You have to stay within that lane. Absolutely. A family that hasn't seen their daughter in 6 months wants their daughter home, but it may not be the best situation for her. And that's why it's so important with the experts that are in the fields, okay, and the counselors, is to listen to them, because there's a procedure and process strategically set up for that individual to follow. And if they follow it, okay, the chances of them staying sober are much more greater than if they're to take a detour, okay, and go home and live with mom or dad, where, you know, maybe they can go back to that same old, you know, people, places, things. And people, places, things equals triggers.
Absolutely. Nick, could you share a little bit about your relationships with us?
Yeah, I mean, I think as far as relationships in recovery, and early on in recovery, I was always told, you know, not to worry about getting into a relationship with a female. You know, in the beginning, that's not something, I mean, they tell you to wait a year.
I just have to just pause for a second,
Yeah.
because what Nick has touched on is probably the most important, critical part of recovery.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's said for a reason. And what Nick is talking about is no relationships within a year of getting sober, and it's so important. And I see so many young people, you know, who come together, whether it's at rehabilitation centers or in meetings, and, you know, finally they found somebody that they can communicate with and share, you know, common stories with. Next thing you know, it's becoming romantic, and before you know it, they're out using. And I always say, because after that first meeting with Nick, you know, I was just so blown away and impressed, because everything that I was told, okay, he was doing. And you know, it's there's no secret to, you know, his sober success. But go talk about the relationship, and no relationships within that first year.
Yeah, I mean, how it takes time to, the reason why they say that is because of the amount of time it takes for you to be okay with yourself. You know, once you're okay with yourself, then you know, for me, it was like, okay, I need to be okay with myself. I'm not okay alone. Okay? Once I was okay alone, now anybody I met at that point, I'm like, okay, no matter what happens with this person, I'm going to be okay. You know, I'll be okay, you know, with them, without them. I'll still be that person that I just was. So, you know, having that mindset going into something, I think alleviates that whole, a lot of it, not most, you know, a lot of the jealousy issues. A lot of the, you know, concerns. Like, I would drive myself crazy if I didn't get a text back in 15 minutes. You know, like, I would drive myself crazy. Like, then I jump to conclusions. All that stems from being codependent, you know, not being okay with yourself, you know, insecurities that you're not working on. So, early on in sobriety, if you jump into a relationship, you're going to be that crazy person. I don't care who you are. Plus, like, in rehab, they'd always say, like, what, 2 sickies don't make a wellie. You know?
That's for sure.
So, you know, it's just like it takes time. And, you know, by doing that, I also was able to value myself and have that, you know, self-confidence and believe in myself. And just the fact that you're okay with you. You got a relationship with yourself, you know, that's more powerful than anything in the world. So, you know, and then me as somebody that went through what I went through, I ended up meeting, you know, a beautiful girl. She's an attorney. She has her MBA, and that's not something that I would have never, you know, it's not something I would have ever thought in my life. So it's like, you know, if you take your time, like, things will happen. People will come into your life, and you know, the bottom line is it takes time. To be okay with you, you know.
And I think both of you talk a lot about how recovery is a journey, and there's ups and downs. It's a little bit of a roller coaster, which is a fun ride. But, you know, there are no coincidences. Throughout this journey, there's so many miracles that both of you have shared with me, have shared with the community. But Nick, recently you told me about someone who you were reunited with.
Yeah.
And the story is just blows me away. It's so amazing. It gives me goosebumps.
So, in high school, there was a person that, I could say he was a school officer. He was basically like a mentor for people, helped out, made sure, obviously, I'm sure there was more behind the scenes of what his job was, but for me, he was a mentor. That's the bottom line. And he knew about a lot of stuff going on in my house and with my family and the divorce. And he would call me out of class, talk to me about it. He knew when I started doing, opiates. He would, never, it wasn't like on an incriminating basis. This was just to inform me what's going on, what I'm doing. Long story short, one time I was going to get a bagel, and I was like, I graduated high school already, and he pulled up behind me, and we talked, and I was not in the best place, physically, mentally, emotionally, and he said, you need to go get some help, and this was like one of the first times I was going to get help. My parents were, pretty much, know what's going on, and I went, and I haven't spoke to him since, which was probably, I don't know, 2008, so 12 years, and I got sober, and there was plenty of times that I tried to reach out to him or call the police station, call the high school, ask, and I never seemed to get an answer. And somebody like that obviously doesn't have like social media, so I'm like, can't Google him, can't find him on social media, and he made that much of an impact for me to just try to have a conversation with him. Right. When I talk in my story, he gets brought up. My mom knows everything about my relationship with him. He probably dealt with this on such a big scale. I'm sure I made an impact with him, is what I've been thinking. But like, how many kids? Mm-hmm. So he definitely, I think, made more an impact on me than I did. And just a week ago, I got a phone call from someone at work, and they said, this guy wants to speak to you. I'm like, no way. And I called him. We spoke for an hour, and I got to talk to him about longer than an hour. I got to talk to him about his perspective of me at that age, things like what he thought, and all this stuff. And it turns out he just kind of had to Google my name and reconnect for his own stuff, and it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, they say there's no coincidences, and that's a perfect example of how it works.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Now we're gonna go get dinner.
It's awesome.
So, I'm available.
You gotta meet him. He's a great guy.
So, together, we're doing these videos for Overdose Awareness Day. I know so often that, since we're around people who are either in active addiction or in recovery on their journey, so we often hear about those that are struggling. But, can either one of you share a little bit about, your reflection on those that have overdosed, and just talk about that a little bit, about what's going on in the community. There's an epidemic.
Yeah, it's it's scary out there. With everything that's going on, in the world that we live in today. Mm-hmm. It's very easy, to pick up. I think we're all kind of, out of our typical normal routines. For people that struggle and have addiction issues, that's so important. It's like, and I'm just going to reference AA. Those 12 steps. It's a blueprint for our life and how we should live our lives. not having, a lot of places and, those tools and resources readily available,
Sure.
people are struggling. And I've known I've seen a lot of relapse over the past couple of months. And it's sad. And it's not just relapse to, drinking or drugging again. It's relapse to death. The drugs, the opiates, the heroin, is they're, a lot more powerful than they were years ago. And all it takes is just one time.
That's it.
And that's it.
Yeah.
So it's sad, but I know that throughout this whole thing, people have really tried to make an effort to reach out to those who are struggling. There's online meetings.
Yes.
As the world is starting to see the new world, so are our resources for people who are struggling, in rehabs, online meetings. So, we're slowly starting to roll that out, but it's scary.
Yeah, it's a new world we live in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I see it a lot, and yesterday I woke up and I saw one of my close friends' Facebook profile picture changed, and it was just a picture of him, his brother, and his nephew on the boat, and right away my mind goes there, and I was looking and I messaged him. I'm like, don't tell me this happened, and he sent me like a heartbreak emoji. This is somebody that I was very close with. His younger brother we saw grow up from the kid. He was actually in Florida with me, and he passed away 27 years old with 2 kids. And I see it so often that just scrolling through Facebook, when I see like a happy birthday post, sometimes I just for seeing a picture of 2 people together, I think it's a rest in peace overdose picture.
Wow.
And then I'll have to read it and be like, oh, it's just a happy birthday post, because I see it so much. From just being, working in the field, getting sober, with so many people, and I see it all the time, every day.
Yeah, that's got to be tough for you, being in that industry and seeing everything firsthand, and being connected with everyone, through social media and stuff like that. It's got to be gut wrenching. You wake up and you can, see a story about somebody celebrating 5 years, and by the time you go to bed at night, you have another, post where you maybe just lost a friend. So.
I mean, the other day, somebody that was a recovery coach in the area,
Yeah. I heard about that story as well, and it's sad. We've all got this disease of addiction. First and foremost, this disease is never leaving us.
No.
And like I said earlier, I've seen people with 20 and 30 years go back out. There is no cure. There is no graduation from, getting sober. It's a day at a time process for the rest of your life. And, it's something that we're taught, through our treatment, whether different types of programs, rehabilitation centers, AA, and it's about humility. It's about always being open to grow, open to take suggestions. The ones that I see who go out, and the ones who unfortunately, relapse, a lot of times they're the ones that think they have it. And the second you think you have it, you're going to be humbled. I know I don't have it. What attracts me to him is every day he tells me he doesn't have it, he's got to work harder at it. And he's got such a beautiful sense of appreciation and gratitude that I know he's going to make it today. Tomorrow's another story, but we'll worry about tomorrow,
Right.
right? Day at a time.
Absolutely.
And that goes for all of us.
No projection.
No,
Stay in
no,
today.
listen, let's
That's
just,
all we have.
you know, they say, yesterday's history, tomorrow's a mystery, today's the
Gift.
present. That's why they call it a gift.
Yeah.
And, we can't forget that, and we have to live within today. One of the things that we developed a while back was the Christian Peter mentoring program through Tigger House. And what that is, it's very simple. It's called an EAP, an Employee Assistance Program. And what that does is we take it to business owners and we provide them some tools and resources that allow us to educate their employees on addiction. If they have an employee struggling, what to do, who to call. And through the beauty of Tigger House and the resources that we have available, okay, we're able to educate those employees, okay, on where they can go if they're struggling, or if they have questions. Maybe they're questioning, addiction or sobriety, or maybe they feel like they're drinking too much, okay. But not only is it for the employees, but we've extended it to their families, okay. You may have an employee that's, he's not able to focus, he's not able to concentrate at work. And why isn't that? Well, you know what? His 18-year-old daughter hasn't been home for the past 3 days, and he's worried sick about her, and he suspects there's some type of, some type of drugs or alcohol or addiction. Okay. Well, you know what? That individual can reach out to us, okay, and we can help comfort him and tell him what to expect, what to do, and basically hold his hand through the process to try and get his daughter the help that maybe she needs or what she's looking for. So it's the response that we've gotten from the employers has been amazing, because here we're providing a free tool, okay, to his employees, that if they incur any type of questions, they've got tools and resources to go. And you guys have all worked on specific cases, and I just can't say enough about the positive feedback that we've got by implementing something like that, because again, what we're here to do is spread awareness, and this is just another avenue, okay, that we're able to spread awareness, deliver the Tigger House mission, and let people know what we're here to do.
And I think that's so important, to provide employers with the tools and resources to help their employees and their team members. It's just as important as a family wants their loved one back and they want peace of mind and they want to see their loved one grow. It's the same for an employer. It operates just like a family. And if they can get their employee back sober, happy, thriving with life, they can help grow the company. They can give their all.
We've implemented this program with companies that have 10 employees, and we've implemented it to companies that have 2,000.
Yeah.
Okay, and like you just said, for an employer to be able to give their employee a gift, okay, a solution to a problem is priceless.
Yes, it's huge.
If Tigger was here, I'd give him a big kiss and hug and tell him I love him and miss him and thank him for everything he's done. Again, I say it was the most tragic event for the family, for all of us. But if we can shine any light on this situation, listen, if it wasn't for Tigger, the three of us wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for Tigger, you wouldn't have come to me the day of that event and told me you wanted to get sober for Tigger, that you wanted to carry his message. The reason I do it, the reason you do it, the reason this entire Tigger House team does it, okay, is to pay honor, okay, and to try to avoid, you know, anybody having to go through what Tigger went through, because Tigger had, you know, a 10-year, you know, heavyweight fight with, you know, addiction, and that kid never ever stayed down. He kept getting up, he kept getting up, he kept fighting and fighting and fighting, and you know, I saw that. I saw the strength, I saw the hope, and to me, it's beautiful. And you know, there are days where I'm weak, and you know, I think about him, and he picks me back up, and it's the least that I could do, that we could do, is to pay tribute and respect and to honor to someone who has the exact same addiction that we have. And you know, unfortunately, he's not here to do it with us, but he, I truly believe, is guiding us from upstairs.
I would just tell him, I hope he knows he has nothing to be sorry about, that I know, you know, what he's dealing with, and you know, I know how hard it was. I know that that's not something he wanted to be doing, you know, because I'm sure from his perspective, at some points he thinks like, you know, people think that's what we want to be doing, and you know, I would tell him, you know, I'm right here with you, you know, and you know, we're coming together to spread the message for him.
Think of all the lives he's changed already. He's changed mine. He's changed yours. All the other people that we didn't talk about. That we're able to deliver his message to others that are in need. You know, he's helped more people than he even has a clue how many people he's helped.